Hello to everyone who is hearing this. I've been off this for somewhat a while. Been having a bit of mental health issues. Just things were happening, in my life. To most people on the outside, it wouldn't seem like a big deal, but to me it was. But I do feel better now, so that's why I'm making this video. I want to carry on from the last video that I did, where I basically talk about the weird things, the weird spooky things that I've experienced and dreamt about. And I mentioned two, but mostly one in particular, what happens after we die. And then I mentioned that I was going to talk about my dead grandma and my meeting my mom and her sisters when they were like, I would say just before they kind of got to teenage age, when I had not seen a picture of my mom's sisters and her when they were teenagers, and I did not even know what grandma looked like, but I saw her. It wasn't until after I saw the dream is when I actually saw what she looked like, and it was her. So that freaked the hell out of me. I believe that this is a form of astral projection. So astral projection is obviously an out-of-body experience. But I think from like Insidious, Charmed, any form of like witchy thing, we see kind of astral projection as like one main thing, which is we literally have an out-of-body experience where we're in two places at once, but we say that it's still like, we see it as like one of us is unconscious and then the spirit comes out to go to other places. I have read that astral projection could be in different times as well, so you can go to different times, and I believe that I had a form of that. So like I've said in the past about a disclaimer, this is not everyone's experience who is a witch. This is not everyone's experience who isn't a witch. This is just my experience. I am a free-thinking guy who talks about his experience, so you can disagree all you want, but that doesn't change the fact that it's my story. So I'm going to talk about the dream. So I was talking about in the last video I did that the first weird dream I had was about what happens after we die, and I had it frequently 4 times. This one was only the one time, but I woke up quite a few times from the dream, and then I would then go back to sleep and then continue on that dream, which I thought was quite interesting. Again, even though it's not a repeat, it's a return to the same dream, so probably so I wouldn't forget, because I've never forgot these dreams. Never, never, never. Hello, the one viewer that's come up. I hope that you're doing well today. So I wanted to give that disclaimer. So I wanted to also explain that different people are just more spiritual gifted than other people. So that's why to some people who watch this, they'll be like, you're crazy kind of thing. But that's just because you probably haven't had any spiritual awakenings, or you haven't had an experience because you were born with a veil across your eyes that is not see-through. So the dream, I was in senior school when I had this dream, and in the dream I was in my bedroom at the time, because I've moved many times since I've lived in this house. I've been in a lot of rooms, but at the time I was in the room, I dreamt that I was in the room that I was sleeping in, and I was like watching something. I think I was watching something on my phone. And then all of a sudden, I noticed that in my room, 3 doors appeared out of nowhere. So I had a look in 3 of the doors. The first door led to a beautiful garden with lots of plants and flowers. The second door led to a street that I didn't know. And the third one led to a cemetery in the day. So because it was in the day, it did not come across scary at all. It just looked like a regular place in the day. And I remember feeling bored in the dream, and I remember thinking in the dream, other than just being in my room doing something boring, I went in the door that had the garden in there. So I go in it, and there was just something very nice and very warm and very almost healing in a way about this place. Like, as soon as I entered the room, or the garden, I should say, I just felt very entombed with the nature that was there. And it felt like all of my worries, all of my stresses, all of my doubts about life just left me, and I could just exist in this lovely energy. And in the distance, I noticed that my mom is picking flowers, and I'm obviously surprised to see her there because I didn't see her at first, but because it's my mom and because we're in this lovely garden, I don't really think much about it. So I go over to her. We're chatting, picking flowers together. And 1 minute she's next to me picking flowers, and then I look back to tell her something, and she's vanished. And all of a sudden, I feel this emotion of, I'm missing you for some reason, even though we were just having a great time. It's like the energy changed so negatively. And I remember this overwhelming feeling of, where have you gone? Where have you gone? I miss you, kind of thing, to the point where I had to find her. So in the dream, I got up from where we were picking flowers, and I went down this path that was just like a regular path to try and find her. Then all of a sudden, I see this woman who is not my mom, but she looked like my mom, slightly. And I go up to her, and I'm like, excuse me, have you seen a woman with like curly brown hair, green eyes? Basically explained what my mum looks like. And she says, yes, I have. And then I was like, oh, great, where? And then she says, in my womb. And obviously, at the time, I was like, excuse me? And then I noticed that she's pregnant. So it's like a pregnant lady. I think either I didn't notice she was pregnant when I first saw her, or 1 minute she was like not heavy, and then when I asked her and she answered, then all of a sudden time went forward and she became like 7 to 8 months pregnant, to the point where she had like a big belly. And then she said, I'm having a daughter called Sonia Elizabeth Baker, and that is basically my mum's full name. So I freak out, obviously. I'm I could not handle what just happened. And then I go back into my room, and then as I kind of run to my bed, I'm kind of like in disbelief, and then I look back, and that door had vanished. So then I go out to my regular door that was in my dream, and at the time, my sister lived in the loft. My mum had like made it so that people could like actually live up there safely, so it was all ventilated. There was actual room in there, so we weren't keeping things in there. Like, it was like a proper room. It was actually one of my favourite places to be in because it felt kind of like a den. Yeah, I lived there at one point as well, but at the time my sister was up there. So I actually went up in the dream. I went out of that of my room to basically go tell Zoe what just happened. And then as I opened the door, there was nothing in the door. It was pitch black. Nothing was existing in it. It was like if I was to then go out of the door, I would then just fall and plummet into nothing and just keep falling and falling and falling forever. Kind of like Alice when she falls down the rabbit hole, but it's a never-ending hole. So obviously I'm like, well, I can't go in there. So then I decide to go in the second door, which is the street I don't know. So I go out the door. Obviously, I know that it's somewhere that I don't know. So I'm trying not to like panic, because I can get a bit like panicky if I don't know where I'm going. But I was curious, and then in my kind of vision, I see these three girls who are playing marbles near the gutter, and they're trying to like, they were explaining that they were trying to get this certain colour into the gutter, and then you get more points. So I'm my usual chatty self, because I'm very chatty, and I introduce myself and I kind of say, you know, I'm new here. And then my auntie Carleen, who is one of the sisters, introduces herself, basically says her name and my mum's name and my auntie Vet's name. And when they kind of introduced the name, they were also explaining what they were doing. They explained that all of them were in foster care and they were living in different houses, and their social workers were compiling all of their documents, and this is what they were explaining, that this is what they usually do to like catch up and obviously spend sisterly time together. But when I realised that it was my mum and her sisters, I freaked out again, and I just couldn't believe again what I was experiencing. So I ran out, and then I went back to my bedroom again, freaked out, and I'm like, you know, what the hell is happening to me? And then all of a sudden, I see my mum, my present day mum, walk out of the room that is supposed to be non-existent, and I'm looking at her like, how the hell did you do that? And she's being her usual like gentle, happy self, and she's like talking to me, and then all of a sudden she kind of like goes like that, then stares at me weird, and then she starts rambling and saying quite loudly, I wish I knew you, I wish I knew you, I wish I knew you. And obviously, again in the dream, I'm like, what the hell is happening? And then I woke up from that dream, my heart was racing, and I could hear that same voice echoing in my room, probably a good 8 to 10 times after I woke up. And the first half were the loudest, and then the second half was a bit more like more quiet. But I was obviously very much like, oh my god, I think she's here. And I definitely felt a presence in my room. Like, I always used to feel my grandma was here, which is my mum's mom. I felt her come on my bed, and she strokes me sometimes. I think it's her way of comforting me, because it's also what my mum does as well. So that's probably where my mum gets it from. But somehow I managed to calm down and go back to sleep, and then I wake up from that dream. I go back to sleep, sorry, from where that dream kind of left off, and then all of a sudden, I don't remember my mum leaving, but at the same time, she wasn't there. So when I came back into the dream, it was just me on on my bed, but I'm still reacting as if my mum was being weird to me, saying, I wish I knew you. And then I see this bird come on, fly out of the third room, go on to like the knob of my bed, and then this bird was almost entrancing to me, where it was very cute, and I remember thinking I need to follow this bird. So I did, and the bird took me to this graveyard that was not scary in the slightest because it was in the day. So again, I'm in a place that I don't know. I'm surrounded by graveyards and gravestones of people that I don't know. Then all of a sudden, I see this weird old guy staring at me. And then obviously I'm like, hello, can I help you? And he's like, he asked me, are you Jordan Lee Simpson? And then I was like, yes. And then he was like, follow me, please. So I followed him. And he takes me around some like gravestones, and then he stops and he points at one and he says, she's been waiting for you. And I look, and it is my grandma's full name. So again, I'm freaked out. And then at that point, I then wake up again, freaked out, my heart's pounding. And then at this point, I'm like, I cannot go back to sleep. I what I've just been through, it's too freaky, and I couldn't do it if I wanted to. I woke up from that dream. Like I say, I was in school, so I basically got up the next morning, freaked. My mum's obviously being the typical mum, helping me to get ready. I think she was like making my breakfast or sorting my packed lunch out, something like that. I'm pretty sure it was something to do with food. Yeah, you know, being a good mum. And I just remember staring at her, thinking, oh, should I tell her? Should I not tell her? Is she going to think I'm crazy? And then I talk myself into not telling her because I'm like, no, I think she'll think I'm crazy. So I don't tell her for a couple of weeks, and then it keeps playing on my mind. And eventually I say to myself, no, just tell her. You know, she won't think you're crazy. She might not believe you, but this is your mom. She loves you. So I tell her, and I think at first she didn't believe me. But then when I told her what her and her sisters were doing and wearing, and what Carleen said that you three were doing, she then looked at me weird. She was like, oh my god, we actually did that often as kids, and we used to wear them clothes. So then I was like, no, did you really? And she was like, yeah. So then I think now she believes me because it's way too much of a coincidence. And like I say, I think about 3 or 4 years later, we then get this picture from my grandma's siblings at the time that we are not close with at all. But at one point we were trying to get close to them, but they weren't really that interested. But they gathers a picture of her, and it was the same woman, just younger than the woman that I saw in my dream. And I was right, because she looks like my mum in a way, especially when she smiles. So that freaked me out. And then we ended up going to her gravestone, um, because there was issues with like people paying for it, and apparently the prices had gone up. So there was issues with that, and we all went to where it was built, and obviously all of us were there from what I remember. I can't remember if Carleen was there because my auntie Carleen lives in Turkey, so obviously there's only certain things that she can go to, but I think she was there. But I I kept looking at the gravestone, thinking, why does this look so familiar to me? Like, why do I feel like I've been here? At first, I thought I was just imagining things, but obviously I didn't want to think about it too much because I was there to support my mum when she was going through the emotional grievance again of her mum. And then it came to me that it's the same gravestone that I saw in my dream, the exact same look, size, design, and then I remembered the surroundings of the graveyard of where I was in the dream, and it was pretty much exactly or very similar to the surroundings of where the gravestone was. So obviously I then went in a weird shocked mood, and I remember my mum looked at me and she thought I was upset, and I was like, no, I'm fine. She thought I was like upset, but I was just more freaked out. So again, I told her them new informations, and again, I think at first she didn't believe me, but now I think she does because I'm more firm about my beliefs, and the fact that I knew what her and her sisters were doing, the game that they were playing, what they were wearing, the fact that I mentioned that, like, my auntie Vet, which was the youngest, was very shy and just kept looking at me weird, and my mom and Carly were the only ones that were talking. Um, you know, to her that made sense because that's kind of like their personality dynamic now. So now I feel like she does believe me. I think she feels like maybe I'm exaggerating things to a certain degree, but I promise I'm not. But I do feel like she believes most of what I'm saying. Um, so yeah, I kind of wanted to share that. So, I have mentioned quite a few times on here before that you can disagree all you want, you can think I'm crazy all you want, but that doesn't change what I know to be real from my experience. I've definitely seen, heard, and felt some weird experiences, and that's just one of the ones I experienced in my dream. Um, I wish that I could almost write these down, but at the time, I was very anti I'm going to write a story or write things long because I struggle with writing, but I wish that there was like a way that I could document it before I found out about what my mum looked like, my grandma looked like, and also where that graveyard was. Because if I predicted it before it happened, and if I made it clear that I did do that, then obviously people would have to believe me. But unfortunately, I did not do that because I was too freaked out. So like I say, sorry for the late reply, but mental health can be a bit of a bitch sometimes. I want to do obviously more of this Twitch streaming, but I think I might do on average 4 days a week, and I think I might do, because I think I've mentioned on here that I have 2 YouTube channels. One of them is called The Black Gay Sheep, just like this channel is. And then I also do I also have another channel called Jordan's Jukebox, where I review and react to music, but I haven't done that in months. I might involve Twitch to do with that. I might like play the albums that I like, say what I liked about the song, and then obviously when I've said everything and I've reacted to everything, then that could be the Twitch stream. But I might create a different account if I can. Like, I know for YouTube you can have multiple YouTube accounts, but I don't know if you can do that with Twitch, so I might look into that tomorrow to see if I can have more than one account, and if I do, I might set Jordan's Jukebox as well for a Twitch stream. Um, so yeah, I feel like I've said everything I needed to say. So like I say, you don't have to believe me if you don't want to, but that doesn't change my experience and my story. So I'm gonna say good night and goodbye for now. And like I say, next week I'm gonna plan on doing 4 videos a week and then continue that. And I'm gonna see if I can like do a new Twitch account called Jordan's Jukebox, and I'll do 2 music ones a week, and then I'll do 2 LGBT based politics things or life experience. So I hope you guys have a great night. Love yourself, love the environment, love your body, love your mind, love your heart, love what got you here, love the way your mind works, love each other, and peace out, man.